Northern Cyprus might look like a paradise. The sun, the sea, the low cost of life, and the lowest crime rates. But beneath the surface, there are many downsides that might change your perspective completely. A comment on my YouTube channel saying that I sugarcoat things about Northern Cyprus has inspired me to record this video today. So I've done my homework, I went on the web and I spoke to as many people as I could to come up with as many possible reasons to not like Cyprus as possible. So let's uncover them all today, category by category, and see what's truth and what can be challenged. First, let's talk about politics and international status. Northern Cyprus is not recognized by any other country other than Turkey. And because of that, we heavily depend on Turkey when it comes to the protection, as well as the influence, as well as the import and export. Because we're not internationally recognized, we have no direct flights from any other country other than via Turkey. We have no international embassies over here, and we are under sanctions that limit our trade opportunities, including import and export. And as well as that, we're internationally deemed as a gray zone. Is it a drawback or a benefit? I don't know, you have to decide for yourself. Second category is economy and finance. As you all know, we use Turkish lira as the main currency for our daily essential needs. And Turkish lira is very volatile, has been over the last 2 to 3 years, and because of that, the inflation is very high. But would you really care if you're coming from West or European type of country and you make your income elsewhere, mainly in European type of currency? I doubt so. Here, important thing is that housing and rent is stated in British pounds and it by no means linked in any way to fluctuation of Turkish lira. Because the country is so small with very limited amount of population living in here, which amounts to probably about 400,000 people, we have very limited production, especially taking into account that import and export are difficult to conduct. The main production lines, I would say, within the sectors of locally produced food, marble, as well as concrete. Do you take it as advantage or disadvantage? Well, I would say the less production we have over here, the less pollution there are. Because our production lines are limited, tourism is a sector that our economy heavily depends on, and that's probably true. And a lot of people argue that tourism is seasonal. Well, I would question that because, of course, we have regular tourists that come from May till October when kids are off school, when it's hot, when you can swim. That's true. But then we have another segment of people that come here for gambling tourism, right? We have over 40 casinos, and there are a lot of people that come here for that particular reason, spending their money and time. And there is another trend that has emerged. Quite a bit of pensioners choose Northern Cyprus over winter time because renting an apartment in here during winter is a lot cheaper than their bill for electricity back home. Another drawback is that we have very high interest rates for loans over here in Northern Cyprus from the local banks. And the reason for that is because we are not recognized. And of course, we don't get the financing options from the European banks. You would be expected to pay anywhere from 9 to 13% per annum on your mortgage. Those minuses, I found them on the internet. And do I believe that there are strong drawbacks? Not really, because they don't really reflect or influence the foreigners that come here for regular life or invest or even tourism, right? My personal biggest minus about Northern Cyprus when it comes to the economy is conducting a business by foreigners. Let me explain you why. It's not difficult to set up a business, not at all, but the overheads are high. That's first thing. You would be expected to pay roughly about €1,000 per month just to keep your business up and running without any rentals. Take it into account. Second problem arises when it comes to the employment. Local population doesn't really like working for a minimal wage, and the minimal wage in here, so you know, is €1,000 per month. And to employ workforce from overseas is quite challenging as well. There is a complicated bureaucratical process. Third problem comes to a high competition. If the sector is in high demand, trust me, you will have a lot of competitors around, especially when we talk, let's say, about dining or entertainment. I've seen many foreign business individuals coming here to Northern Cyprus and try to set up and run a business, but a lot of them do fail because they don't encounter for the challenges. The first thing you would think of is retail. You know, there is such a big shortage of foreign-made goods here in Northern Cyprus that niche can be filled and it's going to be successful. Well, they don't encounter for one thing. First of all, import and export are very difficult to conduct, right? There is a custom duty tax that is not strictly regulated. You can never know exactly what you're going to face yourself with when it comes to taxation of the goods that are being imported. Secondly, it's the timelines for the deliveries, and they are so rare and so unstable that, it does affect the businesses as well. And thirdly, you have to encounter there is a very limited consumer base because the island is very small. Now let's talk about properties and legal issues. And I'm going to start with the long waiting times for the permission to transfer the title deed into your name to come through. Only recently was taking up to 2 years, but now things have changed slightly and the waiting time somewhat about a year. And the process is a lot more smoother and it's digital. That makes it a lot easier to conduct. Second of all, some developers, not all of them, do act irresponsibly over here. And when it comes to resales, let's say, when the title deed is still in developer's name, they use their power. Sometimes they do introduce insane reassignment costs. A lot of the times they would impose VAT tax on the second bar to be paid out again. And in some cases, they don't want to pay their stoppage tax when it comes to title deed transfer. But bear in mind, those cases are rare and it all comes down to irresponsibility of particular companies that we are aware of. Another drawback is the slow courts. Don't ever try to sue someone here in Northern Cyprus because, first of all, it's going to take you years, and I'm talking about 3 to 5 years. Second of all, you as a foreigner, it will never be in your favor if you're trying to sue a local company. And thirdly, it's going to cost you a lot of money. Fraud cases are not uncommon in Northern Cyprus, but again, it's only when you give your money to a criminal willingly. Police is not going to do anything about it. Whereas if your belongings or money got stolen, the criminal gets arrested immediately. Since we have a lot of cameras over here, police has access to them all. And as well as that, the island is very small. It's very easy to track anyone. Next category is utilities and infrastructure of Northern Cyprus. We hear a lot that there are electricity blackouts all the time. Well, that's true and that's not true at the same time because it heavily depends on the location. Let's say if we talk about Iskele, that's true because they have practically daily power cuts on a regular basis for a short period of time because to start off with, there was no enough electricity infrastructure that was amounted for the construction that took place over the last 2 years. A center, on the other hand, doesn't really experience that problem because there is enough electricity being supplied for the current resident. But that could change in the future because there is a lot of construction is due to be completed and we don't really know if there is an infrastructure being accounted for that amount of units being delivered. If we touch base on Girne, where I live myself, I would say I've only experienced power cuts maybe 5 times in the last year alone. And majority of that was due to the emergency on electrical plant of KIBTEK. Water shortages inland. Well, my dear friends, I don't even know what to say in here because I've never experienced myself water being cut. I can't remember staying in a house and not having water being supplied. And I think the reason for that is water tanks that every single complex has for those kind of emergency situations when the water has been cut. So I've never really experienced in my daily life over the last 3 years not having water in my house. Slow internet. That is true, but I think it's a problem of any other island on this planet, right? You can always get yourself a Starlink if you do require fast-speed internet. People also say that mobile data is expensive. Well, let's say I pay about 30 euros for 100 gigabytes of data per month. And that's more than enough for me, and I don't consider it to be expensive, but you decide for yourself. Rail system is not existent. That's correct. I mean, we're on an island, right? And poor public transport. That is true as well. I would never rely on it because it's inconsistent, it's inconvenient, there is no timetables, and it's very old and outdated. As well as that, people say that roads always under construction. Well, my dear friends, they are not being repaired to be better. They are expanded and developed to be better. I consider it to be a good thing. Traffic jams in Girne, Çatalköy, and Lefkoşa. That's true, and that's why roads are being expanded with new highways being built. We don't have sidewalks everywhere in Northern Cyprus, and that's true. I mean, where the places where roads are being expanded, of course, it's always accompanied by new sidewalks being built. But again, we still have that problem that persists where cyclists or pedestrians find it difficult to cross, to walk, or to get from point A to point B. The biggest problem of Northern Cyprus, I would say, is the outdated waste management system, and we practically have non-existent recycling team. As well as that, we don't have Uber, right? We don't have any apps associated with taxis. So if you need to catch a cab, you will probably need to do it outside on the street, on the road, or have a few numbers of the individuals that would be willing to give you a ride at a fee when you need to get back home. As well as that, we have a lot of stray dogs outside on the streets. Whether it's a good or bad thing, well, first of all, they're all friendly, and trust me, they're the happiest bunnies on earth in here. And as well as that, the government took under control, having them all spayed and neutered. Postal system is very unreliable and we have very high shipping costs. Now let's move on to the lifestyle and everyday life. We do have thunderstorms coming from Middle East. Is it a drawback? Well, the only negative side for me is that I can't really see mountains as clear as I would like them to be because they're beautiful. Product choice is very limited when it comes to foreign-made products. And of course, it all comes down to the difficulties and high taxation of imports over here. Well, if you like a particular brand, of course, that might be a challenge for you. Electronics is very expensive over here. And of course, it's again due to the high shipping costs and import to Northern Cyprus. As well as that, we do have shortages of car parts being supplied to the island. And that's why a lot of the times you will see the same kind of models of the same make on the roads, not because people are so much in love with it, but because it's easier to get the car parts because it's the most common car. Driving on the left side of the road confuses the newcomers. Well, I'm sorry, we're ex-colony of Great Britain and that's how things are over here. But I have to tell you, it only takes you half a day to get used to driving on the left side, and I'm talking from my own experience, so it's a lot easier than you think. We also have a very limited number of theaters, museums, and cinemas. And again, it all comes down to the limited base of consumers. But again, we have a new theater that's being opened in Nicosia, so make sure if you visit Northern Cyprus, you attend it. The last category that I would like to touch base on is environment and nature. Well, my dear friends, the island is naturally beautiful and naturally clean, if not for people that do like to litter a lot, right? So it's within the mentality of some local population and some segment of tourists to leave the garbage behind, right? Or to throw stuff outside or out of the car. But the government a year ago has taken the intensive to impose very hefty fines for doing so. And of course, it's gonna take time for people to learn a new pattern of behavior. And a lot of people will probably have to be fined as well. But you know what? I do believe that within some years to come, the behavioral patterns of those kind of people is going to change. The biggest pollution problem that we have in Northern Cyprus is the KIBTEK electricity plant located in Çatalköy that does pollute the air heavily. And of course, there are government incentives to have that problem solved, be our electricity being supplied by Turkey, but we don't really know when exactly that's going to be implemented. Another biggest problem that I've already mentioned is the outdated waste management system here in Northern Cyprus that, of course, has to be dealt with as soon as possible. Another drawback that I found is that turtles are being harassed here. Well, that's partly true. I mean, turtles are being harassed by the tourists that do subboarding, and of course, they would like to take the pictures with turtles and see them alive and possibly touch them. But other than that, my dear friends, there are a lot of volunteers that come here every single year from all across the globe. And they safeguard the turtles. They monitor them at night. They help them nest. They protect those nests. And they help the little turtles hatch and get to the sea safely without being caught by the other creatures. That's all I could find, my dear friends. If you do have anything to add, please comment below so the other audience that hasn't visited Northern Cyprus just yet could see for themselves whether it's something they can put up with or not. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.